Hello and welcome to the full version of the Siege of Warsaw, which is a battle taking place in my Prussian campaign. As you can see, the Prussian army under Donner Schlobitten consists of 12 battalions of regular Prussian infantry, supported by 2 batteries of demi-cannon, which are fixed artillery, so they won't be able to move once I've placed them on the battlefield, and 1 regiment of regular cavalry. They're opposed by a Polish garrison, which consists of 2 regular regiments of Polish infantry, supported by 2 units of pikemen and a dozen groups of armed civilians that have come out to defend their city, plus 1 regiment of regular cavalry, 1 of militia cavalry, 3 batteries of demi-cannon fixed artillery and 3 batteries of 12-pounder field artillery. In theory, that gives the Poles an advantage in both cavalry and artillery, but this is a siege battle and the Poles are behind fortifications, so from past experience the artillery and the cavalry are going to be of minimal value to the Poles in this situation, and I suspect I'm going to have a definite advantage in infantry, which are the main force involved. So although the sort of odds indicator there gives me a slight advantage, I suspect that's well understated. I'm relying on the fact that in truth I'm going to have a much greater advantage than indicated, but we shall see. Let's get on with the battle. Right, here we are on the battlefield. As you can see, the Prussian army has just been dumped on the battlefield in a dense column, so we're going to need to deploy it. But before I do that, I'm going to have a quick look at the opposition fortification. Right, this is an artillery fort, which is just a basic square fortification. So Warsaw isn't fortified up to full star fort status. And the thing with most of these fortifications is the way they've been designed by CA. They have blind spots opposite the corners. If you look at this corner here, it's got artillery pieces on it, but you've got artillery pieces sort of pointing out in that direction, and you've got artillery pieces pointing out in that direction, but there's nothing sort of pointing off in the corner. So the general best tactic for attacking these forts is to attack them from an angle on the corner. So the first thing I'm going to do is select my 2 fixed artillery batteries, and bearing in mind I won't be able to move them after I've placed them, I've got to find a decent spot to locate them where they can make a decent contribution to the battle without actually getting blown to pieces by the artillery from the artillery fort. So ideally I'm looking for a small hill or a piece of high ground facing a corner. I like to get down low when I'm placing artillery so I can see what they're seeing. Yeah, that looks like quite a good spot. It's not quite opposite the corner, it might get some far from this wall of the fort, but it's about the best I can see, to be honest. So I'm just going to place the artillery here, bearing in mind I'm not going to be able to move it, so it needs to be close enough, as close as I can get it really, to the enemy, so right up against the edge of the deployment zone. So that's the artillery placed. Having done that, I'm just going to move my infantry now. I'm going to group them up into brigades like I usually do, of 4 battalions, and just basically move them not too far across because then they'll be under fire, but far enough so they're on hand just in case the Poles decide to sally out of the fort and cause some trouble. I'll move this one, put this one slightly farther back in case we need to move it in that direction, so I can do that without actually getting in the way of the artillery. The cavalry I'll place over here, sort of covering the flank and capable of moving forward to support the artillery if there is a sally from the fort, and I'll just get the general out of the way basically. Right, so I'm quite happy with that as an initial deployment. Oops, I just realised I've missed an infantry battalion. So, just put those into... got a bit confused. Yeah. Okay, that'll do. Right. So let's start the siege and see what the Poles are up to. We pause the game quickly and let's go and have a look at where the Poles are deployed. Not surprisingly, we've got regular infantry on the walls ready to man the cannon. Their artillery is, or some of their artillery, one 12-pounder, two 12-pounders and one demi-cannon, are actually deployed outside the fort on this corner, so they could in theory fire on my army quite successfully if they were in range. Cavalry's in the middle. Yeah, the AI is pretty symmetrical in its deployment, so there's an equal force of enemy artillery on the opposite corner. Now they're not going to be able to fire at anything from there because the fort's in the way, so effectively that unit of Polish, or rather those two units of Polish demi-cannon are completely wasted over that side, so they've lost two artillery batteries already. There's another artillery battery somewhere, I don't see it. Well, never mind. So I might have a bit of trouble with this artillery on this flank. Have to come up with a scheme for getting rid of them, to be honest. But apart from that, nothing too much to worry about. What I need to do now is start my bombardment of the fort. I have a sort of a house rule when I'm attacking forts in Empire Total War that I don't use the silly rope things to climb the walls. So artillery is essential, and making a breach in the wall is a prerequisite to actually beginning the assault. So the first thing I'm going to do is open fire on the fort walls here. I'll choose this section here. First salvo. If the guns are quick, they can actually cause some casualties to the infantry on the wall if they bring it down fast enough, but usually they manage to get out of the way. As you can see, they're moving down the wall now to avoid problems, although that regular unit's there, hopefully it's only 25% down. Oh, and their cavalry are coming out, that's interesting. I've not seen their artillery fire, so I assume it's out of range at the moment. Oh, they're managing to fire a gun from the walls. The sooner I get the wall down, the better. I haven't put the artillery on. I have actually. Take the artillery off fire at will, so that I force them to fire where I want them to. They usually do, but sometimes they decide to do something. Should silence that gun, I think. Yeah, they're clearing the wall, they know it's going to come down in a minute. I'll make my first breach here. Just check, make sure there's no activity going on over that side. It looks like they're busy at the moment. Cavalry's just staying there. Oh, there's the breach. Right, so I'll switch artillery fire now to the corner and see if I can reduce this corner to rubble and hopefully get a few casualties on one of those two regiments guarding it, or that regiment guarding it. Hopefully we're not going to get too much lag. What used to happen, certainly in the early versions of Empire Total War, is as you were making the breaches in the walls, and you can see all this smoke rising above the fort, as you're making breaches, as the smoke grew in density from the fires, the game literally slowed down more and more and more until it was like watching sort of a slideshow. It was really bad. But more recently, with the more recent patches, I've stopped getting that problem so much. It does still happen sometimes, but I'm hoping it's not going to happen on this occasion. Oops, one of the guns missed. Saw that shot go flying across there. There we go. More, and then that'll come down. Am I going to catch any of the infantry on the top? Don't think so. I'm dithering about a bit, but I think they've moved off the section that's going to drop. So there won't be any artillery fire from that corner now. I'm now going to switch my fire across to the next section of the wall across here. I don't usually bother trying to take the gate down because it's really hard to hit, I find. And also, from past experience, trying to get units through the gate is really difficult. Especially if there's units on the other side ready to oppose you. This section of wall is guarded by the armed citizenry. See if they're clever enough to get out of the way before it drops. This is obviously much faster than a real siege, and it would have taken probably days, if not weeks, to make breaches like this in a fort. And of course what we're missing here is the glacis, which would have been in front of this fort and would have been almost the same height as the walls, sort of an earthen slope, which was intended deliberately to stop this sort of thing happening, so you couldn't hit the wall with the artillery because the shot would bounce straight over the top. But CA haven't modelled that in the game, so it makes things a lot easier for the artillery. Their artillery definitely isn't firing, so it must be out of range. Although, I don't know, my artillery can reach that wall, so I don't know why they can't. The tricky bit is going to be when I want to start making my assault on the breaches, because I'm going to have to march into artillery range of these guns to do that. Which in effect means I'm going to have to get rid of these guns before I can actually make my assault. I'll worry about that in a minute. Let's make the breaches first. I've got a regiment of cavalry which normally would be the answer. I'd just move it round to the flank somewhere over there and then come in at these guns at the flank and overrun them. but as they've got cavalry there, that's rather cancelled out that option. I'd have to defeat those cavalry first, which means if nothing else I'm going to have some infantry backup for the cavalry just in case I lose cavalry. Oh, now that was nasty. I lost a lot of their civilians then because they were too slow to get off the wall. Okay, well I've got 2 breaches now in their wall. I might just see, yeah, I can reach this corner as well. I'm just going to take this corner down, not with any intention of doing anything about it, but simply because it's going to upset these artillery in doing it. I think I might actually hit some of these artillery in the process. It's interesting that I can't actually fire at that artillery because the reticule's red, meaning it's out of range, and yet I can at the wall. Presumably because it's a bigger target, I don't really know. But a few stray shots might bowl over some gunners if I'm lucky. I think the next phase, once I've finished bombarding the walls, I'll have to try and take out a few of these guns at long range. Although they're not firing at me, I can drop artillery shot just in front of them, and some of the ricochet fire may actually bounce through them, so I might be able to reduce the odds a bit. Oh yes, I've just hit that gun, look. Oh, that was good. Okay, so that's one gun gone. Not too bothered about the men there, they're not important. If I can take out a few of the actual artillery pieces, that will be useful. Terribly keen on marching my cavalry or infantry into the fire of 3 batteries of artillery if I can avoid it. Right, let's see if we can reduce the odds a bit with this artillery. If you just click in front, you can see my artillery starts firing. And it's actually firing at that point of ground in front of the artillery battery rather than at it, but if I'm lucky, some of the shot will pass through and do some damage. It's sort of potluck, really. Actually, while they're doing that, because it's obviously going to take some time, while they're doing that, I'll start moving my infantry and cavalry further to the right. I've reduced the artillery on that wall now, so I shouldn't be getting artillery fire from the fort. I just need to be careful about not exposing my troops to too much fire from those batteries before I'm ready. So if I move my infantry across, I want to move the cavalry right over as far as I can so that you can take those batteries on enfilade rather than frontally. So it's going to take a while for those troops to move across, and while they're doing that, I'll carry on taking these ricochet fire, carrying on this ricochet fire against their artillery in the hope of scoring a few more lucky hits. So if you're doing very well against that battery, I'll have a go further across. I'll go at this battery because this is actually the one that's closest. Oh, that was close. One thing you can do, if you press the delete button when you've got a unit selected, it goes straight to the unit, and you also get to follow some of the shot as it goes in, which is quite novel. See if it will work for us. No, perhaps not. You can see the problem with fixed artillery. Once it's in position, it's really stuck there, so you have to be very careful where you put it. I had hoped to have field artillery, proper field artillery, before I got into any serious battles, but so I'm still building the artillery ordnance factories at the moment. Also, if you press the insert button while you've got a unit selected, you actually get sort of a personal view of the battlefield from a soldier's eye level, which can be quite amusing at times. Not very practical from a point of view of playing the battle, because you can miss out on a lot of information going on around you if you're not careful while you're doing this. Anyway, how's things going over here? Well, the cavalry are in position. Infantry are taking a bit longer. It looks like we're about to start receiving enemy fire. That battery's getting ready to fire now. Oops, that was well timed. Just they started to fire, I took out their centre gun with a ricochet shot. Right, so I think things are going to start getting a bit more serious now. We'll start deploying into line now. Ready for a serious attack on their position. The cavalry is here. I'm going to have to move my cavalry forward and try and take out their cavalry regiment, because with that there I can't really hope to take out their artillery. I'm just breaking up these columns into lines. If nothing else, it will reduce casualties from artillery fire. Using standard 3 deep line formation at the moment. I don't have fire by rank, which means that I'm not getting the full benefit of 3 deep line, but it's just a force of habit. It would probably make sense to stretch to them even thinner, because only the front rank fires, but increased artillery fire now. Oh, that's interesting. My counter battery fire has actually taken out an entire battery. That's interesting. Right. Let's switch it then, because it's not doing any good now. And their cavalry going inside the fort. No, and it's changed its mind. Okay. Right, we need to move this infantry brigade forward now to complete the attack. And I'll order my cavalry to charge. Order my cavalry to charge that battery there, so it's in range. Oh, I have to remember to stop my artillery firing before the cavalry charges, otherwise I'll be hitting my own men. Any minute now I'm going to swing round on me and blast me with canister fire, I should think. If they notice me coming. Right, order the artillery to stop firing. Here we go. Right, well that went very well. Just going to take out the other battery while I'm here. Looks like their cavalry's going to try to interfere. But it's a bit too late. Damage has been done. Cavalry's decided to run off here. Oh no, I'm trying to make a second. Come on. I don't want to withdraw the cavalry and charge again because there's a chance that their artillery will fire canister into me if I do. So I'm quite happy really, well, happy really to sacrifice my cavalry regiment in order to allow my infantry to get closer without being fired on. And that's exactly what's happened in fact. Okay, so I can resume my artillery bombardment now. I'm going to watch this side because their cavalry look like they're going to outflank me, so I'm going to form square quickly. I shall order this regiment to complete the work of the cavalry by attacking that battery. I've lost my cavalry regiment, which was always a risk, but it did its job. Took out a whole artillery battery, kept the other one busy so that I didn't have a problem with it. on my note. Right, that's the bayonet charge in. Not worth fixing plug bayonets at this point, I don't think. Should be able to defeat these gunners without sacrificing my ability to fire. Right, so that's that done, I think. We've eliminated this artillery position. What's the situation with their cavalry now? Where did it go? It's over here. Has it routed? Yeah, I think their cavalry is out of the picture now as well. Okay. Stop firing. I'll put the artillery just on fire at will now. I'll leave them to get on with it. So we're now into the next phase of the battle. Having cleared the walls, we've made the breaches, we've got rid of their artillery. It's a question now of forming up for an assault on the breaches.